3.
Oh, she's on the other side, huh? Okay, so we've heard a little bit about the end of this, the beginning of this. We're starting with show examples of how teachers are implementing the Ccss. Okay.
Use the other pen.
The other pen?
I think so, yeah.
Where's your end?
It's in the holder.
No? Oh, there it goes. So what we did is there were so many of the examples that were out there of teachers already putting this into practice that we looked at a few of them. And and we can print this for you, but we can also send this to you. It's on the iDrive as well. So examples of how teachers are implementing the CCSSs. There are specific sites that deal with high school, middle school, and elementary school, and under each one of these, we also have, there are examples from each grade level that you can look at their videos. They talk about the CCSSs in general, and then show specific examples of inquiry, student-based, student-directed questioning, all of that. And so you can look at these examples, and there are a lot more there. So if you want to see something in action and see teachers really doing this, this is a great place to go and start from, a jumping off point. And then we do this. Okay, here you go. Your turn.
We were asked to look at the pros and cons of implementation, and the pros that we have are that it promotes independent learning, as you can see today. We have higher order thinking going on, problem-solving skills, communication skills, promotes teamwork, more rigorous, and more focused. Another thing that we may have added on that was it seems like, along with the rigorous, at an earlier age, the levels of standards are getting higher earlier on. The kids are having to learn more sooner, and they're supposed to carry that on to the next grade level. So we'll be seeing more of that. Some of the cons are that you have a less broad focus on what you're teaching. You'll have open-ended, can be overwhelming sometimes for people. It can be time-consuming. Not everyone will get this same experience out of it, and evaluation of the process is unclear. We're not real sure how we are going to actually be able to evaluate the students' projects or how they're going to go through the steps on that.
So we all get to, there was a question that was brought up last night at the meeting about kids and what they're learning, and one of the things that we always get frustrated with as a teacher is that the students do want to be fed the answers. We're in a society of instant gratification, and they want the answers right here, right now. And to get them to think about something is very challenging and very difficult in and of itself. And I think that this does promote that, because they're going to have to discover on their own. We're not just feeding them the answers. So it focuses on all those things. However, even though it is more focused and they go into greater depth, which is a positive, one of the things that said on one of the websites is it's more focused, it's less broad. But to me, also sometimes as an educator, even though we want them to be focused and go deep and learn these things, I also, this is my personal opinion as an educator, that sometimes we need to touch on things in a broad way, because we're here to give them experiences in a variety of areas. So there'll be times, I think, when we need to be more focused and more in depth, which is an advantage of this. But to me, it's also, maybe I don't get to touch on as many subjects, which there is an advantage to that as well, even if it's just exposure. So to me, that was me as an educator, that was why I put that one down. And as we experience today, having it so open can be a little overwhelming. How do we break this down? Where do we start? And I think the kids are going to feel that. I know Brian and I have been doing a project together with the junior hires on this very subject. and they tend to look at you like, what are we doing? And you try to give them those parameters, but they're not used to this process, so it can be overwhelming.
To elaborate a little bit, they've got this great methodology of waiting you out.
Yeah.
And if they sit there and do nothing long enough, they have me played that they know that I will tell them something to start on as far as trying to get them started. But I mean, it's a difficult thing to decide when to tell them you need to do this now versus, well, what do you think about it? Where would you begin?
And I think the time consuming, as educators, we value our time. We have so much that we need to get in a certain amount of time. This process, at least initially, it does take more time. You do go more in depth. It does take longer for them to discover things. When we're used to just getting up there and giving them some information and expecting that knowledge, so it is a little more time consuming, and we have to figure out how to work that out. And one of the things that Cindy brought up, not everyone will get the same experience out of it. What she said is we were working in a group. Lisa was doing the PowerPoint. I was doing some research. She was doing something else. So we're not all doing the same thing, which can be good. But then again, we have to make sure that somehow those kids aren't doing the same things all the time. That one kid does a PowerPoint one time or whatever it is they're doing, another kid does the filming next time, rather than one person always doing the research, one person always doing the speaking, etc., to make sure that everyone gets that experience. And of course, yeah, the evaluation. It is a little harder to come up with that process of how do you evaluate what they've learned and what they've done, as opposed to how we have been doing it. So that's the challenge. And all the negatives or cons are not insurmountable. They're just going to take some time. Oh, I guess oh, I guess it's my turn. Even though I just spoke a lot on yours. Diagram method of implementation. This one is just one sort of method. The Common Core Standards Implementation Process Model. And basically step one, identify and ensure a shared understanding of relevant standards so that everybody understands what the standard is, where we're going. Determine acceptable evidence and criteria. So what are we going to base this on, evaluate this? What is it that we're looking for? And decide what evidence-based learning experiences will address student needs, interests, and learning styles. So that depends on whatever you choose here, and then you look at your students at that point and decide, okay, based on their learning styles, their interests with the topic, what kind of project are we looking at here that they're going to do? And then you teach what you need to in that area. You collect evidence of student learning, analyze student work to inform instruction or to provide feedback, focus for the data teams, and let me see if I can read this without my glasses. And then evaluate student work, make judgment, communicate findings, and then replan, reteach, or repeat the process. So you can either, if things don't work the way after, you kind of go back and you can evaluate what we need to go over again, or you can start this process over with another subject. Any questions on that one at all? Okay, and the other thing we had to look at was the suggestions of how to start the process in your classroom. How are we going to actually get going on these new CCSSs? And the first thing was to know your standards. Just make sure you're familiar with what they are, and then select one. Start with baby steps. Pick a standard. Look for resources, find ideas, adapt what you have, and create a unit. And so looking for resources, those resources that we pointed out earlier, Angie had on there, if you go to those sites and you can see some of the lessons that were actually done already by people, you can get some ideas on how you might approach some of those different standards in a new way, instead of having to just totally reinvent it yourself in the beginning anyway. And build upon successes and evaluate areas that need to be improved. And when you're comfortable, start with a new standard. And those kind of go in line with your learning communities, the leadership, obviously communicating with each other and helping each other also. And I think, do we have one more? Oh, that's what. Those were the chronological steps, and those were our steps. They were in chronological order. We kind of put the two together. So, yeah. So that was the end. Yeah, that was ours. So those are the steps that we would take, and that's not ours. So we're done.
Thank you.